What can you tell me about having a unique circumstance where your pops and your grandpa are on the sidelines with you?
It's definitely really fun, and having that connection with them too, being able to say whatever I want to them without having a huge backlash against it, because they know I understand the game of football really well. Being brought up in it and coming to practice all the time as a youth guy and just being around it, it's really special to me. And just having that name that I can carry with me, that everybody realizes that's a big football name and how huge that can be for us.
And then both of them are helping you on both sides of the ball. You're going both ways as a lineman. Who gave you the first football when you were like 2? Was it your pops or was it your grandpa?
It was my dad, but I've never really touched football since because I've been a lineman all my life. Never really had to, so it's been a lot of fighting with my brother that they saw that I was a real good lineman.
Yeah, and your brother, remind me, when did he graduate?
Back in 2023.
Okay. And he played what position?
QB.
Oh, he played QB. Okay. Pretty big name or pretty big accolades. Anything you can share with his career here?
I just know he was one of the best runners to ever come through Linton football, and just I was able to block for him for a couple of years. My freshman and sophomore year, I was there for him, and just being able to share that for the rest of our lives is really nice.
What's something that now, and as a veteran here for Linton for you, what's something that is kind of unique or kind of special about having your grandpa and your dad out there? Like anything that you can say, like it's kind of shifted from like your freshman year to or maybe your sophomore, and then now as an upperclassman?
Yeah, just I got in the weight room early, and I've always obviously been in football, and just having the opportunity to be around everything has been really special and really helped me grow, and just it's been fun, and it's been nice to have all them memories with them.
Like to be kind of surrounded by a lot of football minds, a lot of hitting. Like, can you take me back maybe a little bit about kind of growing up? I know he was playing with his brother a lot too,
right,
and kind of what that looked like in the backyard for you guys being around football and getting going.
Yeah, well, from an early age on, I've been coaching the high school team, and Jake's started out coaching junior high football. So his boys, instead of being gym rats, they're kind of football field rats. So whenever Jake was at practice or Jake was at a game, they were tagging along at an early age, probably in diapers. So, and then at home we're playing catch, and they've just grown up being a fan and a player of the game.
How much was the IQ come into it, teaching your grandsons the IQ of the game and the X's and O's, and as well as Jake teaching that? Like, how much is that kind of a specialty maybe for Hank specifically?
Well, with both Hunter and Hank, it was just they've always been around it, whether it's up here at the school or at home. We both watch a lot of film at home, so the boys are usually around for that. And so, yeah, IQ-wise, they're probably above most kids because they're around it quite a bit.
What makes Hank such a good lineman, whether it's defense, offense? Like, why is that kind of what he's suited for? And when did you know that was going to be where he needed to be at?
Well, he was always a step slower than his brother, but he was always a little bigger. So he knew early on that he was going to be a lineman, and he was okay with that. And he got into the weight room probably in 6th grade. And again, in the weight room, that's somewhere he was familiar with. When he stepped in there to lift, he had already been there a few times. So, he's a pretty good sized boy and got into the weightlifting. We have an award that's a blue face mask. And a lot of that is weightlifting and agility testing. And we've done that for 25 years. And Hank's tested well and earned that blue face mask multiple years. And it's harder for a lineman to do that. So that shows you how hard he's worked in the weight room.
Some nimble feet too there, and strength as well,
right.
It sounds like.
Absolutely.
What can you tell me about Jake and what he's doing well on the offensive side of the ball as a coach, and how and maybe from afar, what you see his interactions like with Hank, and how special that is for you as a grandpa to see that?
Yeah. Well, back when Jake was coaching youth ball, when Hunter and Hank came through the ranks, I was actually reffing on Sunday afternoons. So that gave me a whole new perspective, being out there and watching Jake coach and watching the boys play. And so that was neat, being that close to it. And so as the boys came through junior high, and got on the high school team, it's pretty special having a son there coaching with me and having grandsons come through, and that's about over. You know, this is Hank's last year, and my next grandson is 2 years old, so I don't know if I'll be around when he makes it. But yeah, we've had a lot of good times, and Jake's an excellent coach, excellent at the X's and O's, and probably more importantly, he has a great rapport with all the kids.
So what can you tell me that dynamic is like? Because I've actually never heard of that. Having a grandpa, a dad, and then a son all mixing it together. And obviously, in recent years, you had Hunter and Hank doing it together. But
right.
What can you tell me what that dynamic is like with a family doing that?
Well, you know, it's pretty special. But when you get out on the field, you just kind of forget about it. You know, you're doing your job and trying to coach everybody up, especially on game night. That's kind of out of your mind because you're concentrating on calling a good game and keeping the players ready to go every play. So probably where we enjoy it most is when we're sitting at home after the game and telling stories and reminiscing about each play, and that's really where it becomes nice, sitting there with family members and talking with your son and grandsons about it.
I'm sure you guys are breaking down like triple digit plays in terms of how many plays you guys are walking through. That sounds awesome.
Right.
How much has Hank kind of got a green light to kind of like almost in terms of communicate with you guys, kind of let it rip, and you guys understand that this is maybe he's got more of a leeway? He was even telling me, because with someone who another coach might take it differently, or what's that dynamic like?
Right. Well, him being a senior, he's been through it all now these last 4 years. This is being his 4th year, and he's kind of like having a coach on the field, and he knows he's a senior captain, and that's got a huge responsibility. Guys looking up to him, and he needs to be able to tell guys in the offensive huddle what they've got. And Jake did that when he was a player as a quarterback, telling guys in the offensive huddle. And then, of course, on defense, making sure guys are lined up and in the right frame of mind and down in distance, and just all the things that you can't communicate every play from the sideline. It's nice having Hank and Jesse Boycechild and Hayden Feltner, those seniors out there that know the game inside and out because they've been playing since they were 8 years old.
The linemen don't get enough pub, so I want to go into this too a little bit. When you see him with his movement, you mentioned how nimble he is, you mentioned his strength, his agility. Does he remind you of someone else playing the game, or someone else who used to play the game, or his body type, his stature? Like, what can you tell me?
Well, 2015 was Dylan Morris's senior year. Okay. And he was probably one of the best linemen that ever come through here since I was a coach.
Wow.
And Hank reminds me of Dylan Morris that we call Demo. And he's about the same size. And off the field, both of those guys are big softies that you can't hardly make them mad. But on the field, they can turn the switch on and really play football like it's supposed to be played.
With Hank, and then his grandpa, and then his dad, and then you as uncle, what kind of dynamic does that kind of make? And I guess it just makes everything literally family, not just the team and family.
Well, you really look at it's a pretty fun time to be able to do this. I mean, 2 years ago, we were fortunate to have Hunter as a senior, Hank as a sophomore, and Paul as a freshman. I mean, when all three boys were young, we were like, hey, this is our team. Of course, we made it to semi-state and get beat by Hunter Day, but that was the fun time for us. I mean, that's what we looked forward to since they were babies. And then now we're down to just two. Hunter's moved on to the Naval Academy, and Hank and Paul is still here. But you look with Hank, I mean, he's a generation of Gennickses. That goes back to the early 1900s when they've all been through here. Yeah. And I mean, going back, you have Mark, his brother Frog played, and then he had his grandpa Frank that played. I mean, they have another one that played back earlier. So, I mean, that's one thing about our program, that you have a lot of families start cycling through generations after generations that comes through that come. I mean, the same thing with the Wright families. There's a lot of tradition there. So it's a pretty neat thing, but having Hank and the boys around as a family kind of thing, I mean, we talk a lot of football around the holidays and kind of family gatherings. There's not much that we don't talk a little bit here and there, and so it's a good time for that. I mean, we really enjoy that.
I'm really proud of Coach Jake, our offensive coordinator. You look what he did, not having Paul, putting him at wide receiver, and putting Russell and Jesse in the backfield, something we haven't done, and added several new plays with the boys, and that made it successful for us. And just the adjustments, we're just going to keep making adjustments, and we'll just keep grinding out, and we'll see how the season goes then.